So South Africans living abroad have been voting today at South Africa's High Commissions, Embassies and Consulate-generals around the world. The IEC said that voting would happen for almost 24 hours as voting stations open and close following the passage of the sun, starting in Auckland in New Zealand, ending in the United States. Nearly 30,000 people are voting across the world this Freedom Day. All right, let's start in Washington. We speak to Kate Fisher, who's there. We spoke to her earlier. Kate, you said many of the voters had come out to a picnic. Is that still going on?
Yes, it certainly is. It's only just getting started, in fact. You join me at the opening ceremony, if you like. We've had prayers and all kind of a gathering together of the community. We'll also be hearing from the Charge d'Affaires from the Washington Embassy, who will be speaking to the gathered diaspora here. And I have to tell you, importantly, it is not just South Africans here today to celebrate their freedom. I've spoken to people from Botswana, from Lesotho, from Nigeria. They tell me it is important for all of them to show their support for their South African brothers and sisters. And this really is a meeting not just of South Africans, but of Africans as well. One of them is with me here. Come and join us. Come and join us. He has been telling me all about why it is so important today for him to gather here. Just explain why you've come down and why you brought your family.
Thank you. I want to just say this is actually great to actually see so many South Africans that have come out in their numbers. We celebrate this day every year here in DC, and each and every year the numbers just keep growing and growing. It just goes to show how many patriots we actually have, that even though they're not in the country, they're actually all over the world, and they are truly still South African at heart. And that's the beauty about it. We have people that have been here for 20 years, 30 years, but when it comes to South African events and South African presence, they always step up and say, we too want to be a part of this. So it's beautiful to have so many people come out here, and really it's a blessed day.
And you have voted. Let's see the proof.
I've voted. I'm celebrating my freedom. It's one Mandela wanted us to all have, regardless of wherever we are in the world. So I'm here to make sure that wherever we are, we enjoy it, we celebrate it, and we actually be part of directing our country forward.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful time today. Amazing celebrations here. As I say, it's not just South Africans celebrating, it's Southern Africans in general. They're all here and they're looking forward to a party.
Yes.
Kate, give us a sense of the numbers. So there are less South Africans in Washington than in New York. You said earlier, how many voters were expected? How many have pitched up thus far? Do we know?
SABC.
Yeah, so there have been 360 people registered to vote here in Washington, D.C. A couple of hundred registered in Chicago. Again, it's in the hundreds in Los Angeles, but I understand it is much more in New York. As far as actual voter numbers, it's hard to find that out just yet because voting is still going on, and it will continue until 7 p.m. local time here on the East Coast of the United States. I have spoken to one woman here at the picnic today, a South African woman living in Washington, D.C., who said she was actually very frustrated because she had registered to vote, and it wasn't until quite close up to voting day that she discovered there was a second step that she had to do, and she hadn't been given the information on how to do that, meaning she couldn't actually cast her ballot today, and she was very frustrated. She felt that the information from the government hadn't been sufficient for her.
We heard from New York, some people were concerned about the two envelopes, having to give all their details in the one envelope, although the second one with their vote did not have those details, but it was enclosed in the envelope with their details. Any sort of concerns like that expressed, Kate?
Certainly while I was at the embassy, everybody was very happy with the way the process had been going, and they felt it was very well organised. It is just here at this picnic that I have heard from this one woman in particular who was concerned that although she thought she had done everything she needed to do in order to be registered to place her vote, she found out very late that she hadn't, and she felt that she hadn't been given enough information soon enough by the government to rectify things. So she was very frustrated by that and wanted to make that clear, because she really wanted to vote. She thought she'd done everything she had to do, and when the time came, she wasn't able to.
All right, thank you very much, Kate Fisher in Washington, D.C. And let's zoot over to New York. Sherwin Bryce-Pease, my correspondent there. Sherwin, how's it going in New York?
France's a slow but steady start here at the South African Consulate-general in Manhattan. Some 605 registered voters expected here at this voting station. Of course, there are 4 voting stations across the United States, probably one of the most in terms of number around the world. Voting taking place not only in New York, also taking place at the Embassy in Washington, D.C., at the Consulate-general in Chicago and Los Angeles. I'll break down those numbers for you in a moment, Francis. I just wanted to give South Africans watching this at home a sense of how easy breezy the process is here in New York. The initial is a check of documents at the front entrance of the consulate, and then a second check over here where your identity document is verified and checked against the IEC list that has been provided to the consulate. We also have a number of party agents / observers that are sitting in and observing these elections. These are 2 members of the Democratic Alliance that are observing here. So after that first process, people come over here to collect their ballot papers. There are 48 parties on this list. Of course, voters voting abroad are not voting in the provincial elections. They are only voting in the national vote. So they will pick up a ballot paper and also one of these envelopes. This is the unmarked envelope. After you've cast your ballot and made your mark, you then fold your ballot and put it in this envelope, and I'll get back to this envelope in a little bit. As you can see, polling booths behind me, a lot of privacy here. This is, of course, an active voting station, so we're trying to be as respectful as possible. They have the privacy to go in and make their mark. They then fold that ballot paper and put it in that envelope, that unmarked envelope that I showed you. And then there's another step. They get another envelope called the marked envelope, in which voters have to put their name, their identity number, and the voting district. This has caused some controversy. People saying to us, well, I thought my vote was going to be a secret. And of course, the IEC later coming back to us and explaining that this is to ensure that voters don't vote twice, that this eliminates fraudulent balloting. So what will happen is that unmarked envelope is then placed in the marked envelope. It is then put in a courier bag, shipped to the IEC, where it will be removed from this marked envelope to ensure that the voter hasn't voted twice. And then the unmarked ballot is put into another ballot box where it will remain a secret. So that's kind of something that they explained to us. I'm going to ask Mavis Gwatla, the elections officer. She's vice consul at the South African Consulate-general here in New York, which is also responsible for the smooth running of the process here today. Mavis, I know you've been up since 7 o'clock this morning. We've had voting now for over 7 hours. What are the numbers looking like? What is the process looking like? And how are you feeling, Mavis?
Okay. We have received already 270 voters. We're still expecting to reach 605 as we expected them. And we are going to be here until 11:30, so voters don't have a reason not to appear here. We will patiently wait for them. And there have been some complaints here and there because people who didn't find their names on the voters list, they complained, but have to fill in the VEC2 form, some thought that it's useless because then they didn't cast their vote, but they were supposed to have filled in the VEC10 form after registering themselves to say we will vote in New York.
Let me just explain to our viewers. So the VEC10 form was essentially the document that was required for voters to indicate that they would be voting abroad. If they did not fill out that VEC10 form, that is problematic because then you are not going to appear on the IEC list here. And now you're talking about the VEC2 form. Essentially, that is to say I had a problem and you want to notify the IEC of that problem.
Yes, exactly.
So you're open until 11:30. How do you expect the process to go moving forward?
We receive quite a number of people in the morning coming in groups, but we still we will see how it goes. But until 11:30, we'll be here. We are very patient.
Well done, and thanks so much for speaking to us, Mavis Gwatla. We appreciate it. All right, Mavis speaking to us here in charge of operations. Francis, it's back to you.